The Arizona Cardinals, the Los Angeles Chargers, and the Indianapolis Colts walk away with the big three wide receivers. We're going to talk about this and more coming up next.
You are Locked On NFL Draft, your daily podcast covering the NFL Draft. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Locked On family? Welcome back to the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast, your daily podcast covering your favorite draft prospects, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your boy, Damian Parson, always on the ones and twos. You can find and follow me on X at DP_NFL. I'm a national scout and a senior draft analyst. And thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen today and every day. Shout out for being our everydayers. And you already know I got to kick this intro to my guy, Mr. LSU himself, Keith Sanchez. You can find and follow him on X at The Talent Code. You talk to him, baby.
What's up, Locked On family? Let's get locked in. This is Keith Sanchez, the other side to this dynamic duo that we like to call the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast, your number one source for everything NFL draft content. DP, this is Mock Draft Monday, but this is not any just Mock Draft Monday. This is a draft week. Mock Draft Monday. We are here. If you can't hear it in my voice, I am extremely excited to get this week going, to get this thing going. DP, we're breaking down Peter Schrager's mock draft. He dropped this mock draft last week. We didn't have a chance to break it down, right? We have to break down all of the big guys in the industry, see what's going on, talk about it, and see if it's Locked On NFL Draft approved, right? See if it's certified by us, man. Before we get this podcast started, man, I want to say shout out to our everydayers. Thank you for tapping in with us each and every single day. Hit that like button, go ahead and comment, and don't forget to subscribe if you're not subscribed to the hottest YouTube channel out there. But DP, before we get this Mock Draft Monday started, man, why don't you hit him with our title sponsor?
Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed. That's $150 win or lose. Visit FanDuel.com/locked-on to get started. Get into it, guys. Peter Schrager's latest mock draft at number 1. Caleb Williams to the Chicago Bears, quarterback out of USC. At pick number 2, the Washington Commanders select Jaden Daniels, quarterback out of LSU. At pick number 3, the New England Patriots do not trade back. They stand pat and select Drake May, quarterback out of North Carolina. At pick number 4, the New York Giants move up with a trade with the Arizona Cardinals to select J.J. McCarthy, quarterback out of Michigan. At pick number 5, the Los Angeles Chargers stand pat, and they select Marvin Harrison Jr., Ohio State wide receiver. At pick number 6, the Arizona Cardinals, after the trade with the Giants, select Rome Odunze, wide receiver from Washington. At pick number 7, the Tennessee Titans select Joe Alt, offensive tackle from Notre Dame. At pick number 8, the Atlanta Falcons select Dallas Turner, edge rusher from Alabama. At pick number 9, we got another trade. The Chicago Bears shockingly trade out of this situation and allow the Indianapolis Colts to trade up for wide receiver Malik Nabers. And at pick number 10, the New York Jets select Brock Bowers, tight end out of Georgia. Keith, two things before I want to get into these receivers real quick before we get to J.J. McCarthy, because I know that one caught my eye. When you see this, number 9, Keith, Anthony Richardson throwing to Michael Pittman Jr., Josh Downs. You still got Alec Pierce, but you add Malik Nabers to this offense with Jonathan Taylor in the backfield. Keith, how would you feel about this with Anthony Richardson going into year 2 and being healthy?
Yeah, I mean, how would I feel about it is that Rich, you up? You know what I'm saying? Like they gave you everything you need to be successful, right? Mm-hmm. Outside of, you can say the offensive line can, have some minor tweaks here and there, things like that. But every offensive skill position, they've hit the home run for you, right? Like the tight end position is a solid position. The wide receiver position would go from good to potentially the best in the NFL. The running back position, you have a top 5 running back when healthy. So I would hand him the rock and be like, go get the job done, young man. Go get the job done and just handle business. But they've done what you're supposed to do for a young quarterback, and that's give him every opportunity not to just carry the franchise, but every opportunity to succeed by giving him the requisite weapons that a young quarterback would need to be able to make the game easier for him.
No, 100%. And I think that and it also is a great pairing because you have two bigger body receivers. Michael Pittman Jr. can be that possession guy.
Do you trade Josh Downs this early? Because I mean, what do you run 4 wide receiver sets, right? Like what are you?
Honestly, no, you're not trading Josh. You're probably putting Alec Pierce on the bench, Keith. To be honest with you, you moving Alec
So
Pierce out of there.
I see. I don't know how you felt about Alec Pierce. I like Alec Pierce. I think
I like
Alec
Alec
Pierce.
Pierce.
I think he's a good football player. Like I think he's in that same realm of being a wide receiver 2 for a team. So I would trade him because I think there's value there. And I don't think any of these wide receivers, because you got to think Anthony Richardson was hurt before. There's been not a good situation. So none of these wide receivers actually had the benefit of playing with a high volume quarterback, right? So it's hard to grade what's the ceiling for Michael Pittman, what's the ceiling for Alec Pierce, what's the ceiling for Josh Downs, right? Because just what the quarterback situation was, I just think that's interesting. And I would probably trade one of those guys, then put one of them on the bench, because I think all 3 of them are talented. I think Josh Downs is talented. I think Alec Pierce is talented. I think Michael Pittman is talented. And obviously, you know, I feel about Malik Nabers. DP, I want to address at the top number 2. And this is not Peter Schrager's situation, but just because this is a week past that, right? But the Jaden Daniels to the Washington Commanders, I think it seemed like it was all but sealed up, right? But then we have the conversation of, you know, the agent putting the emoji and then the Washington Commanders bringing in all 4 guys at one time. How do I view that? I view that as that they probably have a leader, but it's just like it is for the NFL draft community. It's all so close, right? And you start poking and prodding at these guys, and it's like, man, who do we really want to go to? And I think they're just trying to figure out who's the dude, right? Let's put all 4 of them in the mix and just figure out who's the dude, and then that's who we're going to go with. So I don't think I think outside is locked up. I think for the Commanders, it's not all but sealed up, if you ask me my opinion.
Yeah, I don't think the agent thing was definitely interesting when they hit Twitter and the Washington Commanders fans weren't happy about it, and I understand. You know what I mean? You don't really see agents tweeting stuff like. I don't think that's a direct correlation to. I saw some fans was like, well, that's got to be how Malik Nabers feels. Like, not Malik Nabers. I'm sorry, Jaden Daniels. I don't think that's how Jaden Daniels feels, but his agent's probably like, because I think what the Commanders did was they hosted all 4 quarterbacks for like a golf tournament or so. It was something crazy. I think they had all 4 quarterbacks there on the same day at the same time or something like that. And I'm like, I can see an agent being a little annoyed because it's like, we can't do our thing with 4 other parties here at the same position, jostling for you to pick them, right? You know what I mean? So it's like speed dating, but all of you in the same room, like like sitting in the same spot. Like it's just difficult. So I understand the agent might be upset and frustrated, but it was kind of weird, you know, about the whole emoji, and you know, it grew legs, Keith, and it didn't walk. It ran on Twitter, and everything like that. But real quick, JJ McCarthy to the New York Giants, and I'm gonna be honest, Keith. And we said this, they got to find a quarterback because Daniel Jones is not the answer. The problem I have, though, is you don't have a great roster offensively.
100%.
And it's like, don't get me wrong, you probably played Daniel Jones all season, let Daniel Jones, you know, just play ball, whatever the results are, and you don't care. You know what I mean? But at the same time, because all the trade talk when it came down to Arizona was, it's not just about moving down and getting more picks in this draft. Monty also wants extra first round next year. So if you're the Giants, are you trading up to 4 and sending next year's first to get JJ McCarthy? I don't know, because then that puts you out of the realm of getting one of the top receivers next year, whether that's T-Mac from Arizona, Luther Burden. I don't know what position Travis Hunter's going to declare for the draft at, whether it's corner or wide receiver, but it's another really talented group next year. I don't want to hurt myself that much in 2025 because at the end of the day, you're not doing any justice to JJ McCarthy if you can't have a first round pick to really build around him, whether it's also with the tackle class you're going to see your boys from LSU, Emory Jones and Will Campbell. Like there's multiple options that the Giants, who are probably going to be a bad team this year in terms of record wise, could go there, Keith. So that's the only trepidation I have about the pick.
Yeah, unfortunately, the Giants put themselves in a very bad situation. And unfortunately, it's going to take years to get themselves out of this situation. And their best answer probably was to address this situation without sacrificing their future was to sign one of these to sign one of these free agent quarterbacks, right? Like potentially be more aggressive on a Gardner Minshew, right? Russell Wilson, kick the tires on that. Even a Jameis Winston, figure that situation out, right? Like
Justin Fields. You know what I
yeah,
mean?
just
Like
Justin Fields could have been another option. So
sixth
they
round
they
pick.
put themselves in this situation the minute that they gave Daniel Jones that contract, but then also the pride part didn't allow them to move on and try another situation. So it's just gonna be an unfortunate spot for them overall. But DP, let's keep this thing keep going and flowing, man. Keep it flowing and going. Almost messed that up, DP, on this mock draft Monday, man. But next up, we have picks 11 through 20.
It's playoff time in the NBA and NHL. Baseball is in full swing, and FanDuel is your place to bet on every single game. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed. That's $150 win or lose. Guys, you can bet on everything from slap shots to home runs to slam dunks. All of this on an app that is safe, secure, and super easy to use. Let me repeat that, guys. I want you to understand that with FanDuel and the FanDuel app, you can bet on everything from slap shots to home runs to slam dunks. Okay. Everything, all of this on the app that is safe, secure, and super easy to use. So the question is, what are you waiting for? Why are you sitting here waiting, talking to me? What are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com/locked-on and make your first bet an automatic win. Visit FanDuel.com/locked-on to make your first bet an automatic win, because FanDuel is America's #1 sports book. We've all been there, either as a player or a fan. It's halftime. The scoreboard is not looking good. You're feeling low, not sure you or your team can pull out a win. That's when you dig deep, lift your head up, and say to yourself, time to get back in the game. Pull off some bank heists and take as much of my friends' money as I possibly can. That's right. The smash hit mobile game, Monopoly Go, lets you compete with your friends to get the most richest and the biggest empire. It's the Monopoly that you love, but on your phone anytime, with tons of new twists, including leaderboards to compare your progress to your buddies. There's so much to do, like play on countless dynamic Monopoly boards. Make your friends bankrupt by smashing their landmarks with a wrecking ball. You can even work with your friends to crack open community chests and in tournaments to get extra rewards and climb the leaderboard. So get back out there, put on your game face, and download Monopoly Go. Now free on the App Store or Google Play. At pick number 11 in Peter Schrager's latest 2024 NFL mock draft, the Minnesota Vikings did not trade up. They stood pat at pick number 11 and took Terrion Arnold, cornerback out of Alabama. At pick number 12, the Denver Broncos did not go quarterback either. They select Leatu Latu, edge rusher out of UCLA. At pick 13, the Las Vegas Raiders select Olu Fashanu, offensive tackle from Penn State. At pick 14, the New Orleans Saints select Talise Fuaga, offensive tackle out of Oregon State. At pick 15, with the trade with the Colts, the Chicago Bears select J.C. Latham, offensive tackle out of Alabama. At pick 16, the Seattle Seahawks select offensive lineman Troy Fautanu out of Washington. At pick 17, the Jacksonville Jaguars select Quinyon Mitchell, cornerback from Toledo. At pick 18, the Cincinnati Bengals select Byron Murphy II, interior defensive lineman, defensive tackle out of Texas. At pick 19, the Los Angeles Rams select Tyler Guyton, offensive tackle out of Oklahoma. And at pick 20, the Pittsburgh Steelers select Brian Thomas Jr., wide receiver out of LSU. Keith, wait, which pick was it? 15. This was one
I was going. That's exactly
I
where I was
don't understand
going.
this at all, because who's playing left tackle? Like, who's playing left tackle in this situation? Unless you're telling me you're cool with Braxton Jones, you're good with Darnell Wright, and you're going to kick JC down the guard, fine. But I mean, I don't know. Like, this is a weird fit to me.
Yeah, I immediately thought of Evan Neal And if you listen to this podcast enough, you know how I feel about the Evan Neal situation. Evan Neal is a left tackle. When I graded him out of Alabama, I graded him much higher at left tackle than right tackle. So with JC Latham, I don't even know if I want to swing him from right tackle to left tackle, even though I think he was a guy that played left tackle in high school, I believe, as a prospect. It would just make me a little bit nervous, right? Like, make sure that he can do this before we just transition him on, to the other side. And this is a situation where you have to understand your offensive line, right? Because you have Troy Fontana go after that, who's played left tackle, right? And it's like, you know what? Even though JC Latham may be graded a little bit higher, do you just go with Troy because you don't want to draft a guy and put him out of position? And like you said, we've had our guy Kraft and Lyman on here, right? And he talked about it's not impossible, right? But it is definitely more difficult. And we've heard that from a lot of offensive linemen. It's like writing with your right hand and your left hand. But guess what? Some people do it. Some people write a little bit better with the other hand that's not their dominant hand. And some people can't do it at all. I just wouldn't, knowing that the draft process and there's a 50% chance that these teams hit or don't hit on a prospect, I don't want to lower that chance by putting a guy in a position that he didn't even play right in college. So I that one definitely had a couple question marks for me for DP.
And that's crazy, Key. Like you said, he had not played this position at college. And like you said, it's comparing, writing with your right hand to your left. I'll take it one step further. It's like shooting threes when you're right-handed with your left hand. If you can't shoot with your left, I'm not going to tell you as a coach to shoot threes with your left. Like, that's like, trust me, I've tried it. It's very difficult to do if you haven't like really practiced that, man. If you're not ambidextrous, it's not going to work. So I don't know if you're kicking him in at guard, but then even at that same point, I don't know if I'm drafting him right there. If I'm going to kick him in that guard, I might go somewhere else and then grab a guard later. You know what I mean? Because there's still some good guards that you can get for good value later on.
So,
I think,
yeah, but real quick, I think this proves my point too, is that I like the trade back. I like it a lot. And this is where I always feel like there's some weird patches in the draft as far as value, right? And I think if you are picking at pick 9, you could be picking at pick 15, right? So I think it's a great trade back because I don't think they're going to lose much value. And even if it wasn't a JC Latham there, you're 2 picks away from Olu Fashanu being there. And, there's different ways that the board can fall where it can still benefit you tremendously.
No, 100%, kid. I think going down the pick 20, Brian Thomas Jr. to the Pittsburgh Steelers caught my eye because, and I like it because you have 2 quarterbacks who are better vertical passers than horizontal passers on your roster now. With Russell Wilson and then Justin Fields, both of these guys love to throw the ball down the field and push the ball in the deep parts of the field. Those are 2 quarterbacks that you don't see or people want to see more throwing in the middle of the field. It's always been a question for Russ because of his height. Like, can he see to be able to anticipate throws and get throws in the middle of the field as much? And Justin Fields, like, people worry about, okay, is this processing quick enough to get the ball out early in the middle portions of the field? I think when you have a George Pickens, you add Brian Thomas Jr., you have Pat Freiermuth as a tight end, 2 really good running backs who complement each other well. You still got to shore up this offensive line now. You still got to fix the Dan Morgan, ghost of Dan Morgan and his 55 pressures by himself. They're still there, man. So you got to figure that out. But Keith, I actually do like the fit for Brian Thomas because with his speed and verticality to his game, he's going to take that top off. He's going to give them that deep ball, but also the another big body guy that can play at the catch point. Him and Pickens can dominate with the ball in the air with their body control, their timing, and their leaping ability. They can extend the catch point for both whoever's at quarterback, whether it's Fields or Russell Wilson.
Yeah, I would like this more if they're also able to acquire Brandon Aiyuk too and let Brandon Aiyuk work that short to intermediate level.
Would you make this pick if they acquire I don't know what it's going to take to get Brandon Aiyuk. If they get Brandon Aiyuk without giving up a first this year, would you rather them go tackle here?
I wouldn't mind because I think they can get tackle and I think they can address the center position. Like we talked about, Cedric Van Pran, Kieran Umagadegi, right? Roger Rosengarten, Blake Fisher, right? Like there's a lot of good offensive tackles.
Good point.
I wouldn't hate it. You know what I'm saying? Like if they still went Brian Thomas at this situation, I wouldn't hate it.
Crazy receiver core though. Like you know what I mean? Brandon Aiyuk, Brian Thomas Jr. and George Pickens, like that's a dangerous,
But I
like
mean, but that's what
well-rounded
the
group.
Steelers have been in the past, right? When you think about those teams when they had Mike Wallace, Hines Ward, Emmanuel Sanders, right? They've always had three guys that can go. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Even
yeah,
with the
facts.
Antonio Brown, Juju Smith-Schuster, right? And I'm trying to remember who was the other wide receiver that they had with that team. So they always
Martavis,
had
was it
three.
Martavis Bryant?
Might have been, yeah. Might have been for a moment. Yeah, they always had three wide receivers that can go. So we'll see how that thing continues to unfold. But DP, let's keep it going and keep it flowing, man. We're on to picks 21 through 32, which I always say each and every week. What is my favorite picks? I like seeing what the playoff teams do. How do they leverage themselves and how do they get better? So coming up next, man, is picks 21 through 32.
You shouldn't have to worry when it comes on to buying tickets to your next Major League Baseball game. I know it can be frustrating, and the ticket buying experience is not the easiest. But let me introduce you to GameTime. GameTime is now an authorized ticket marketplace for Major League Baseball, which makes getting tickets even faster and easier. Prices on the GameTime app actually go down the closer it gets to the first pitch, with killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and their lowest price guarantee. GameTime takes the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets. Okay, guys, for example, this Tuesday, tomorrow night, if you're in the Atlanta, Georgia area, you get to see the Atlanta Braves host the Marlins at 7:20. And guys, on the GameTime app, you can get tickets as cheap as $3 a piece. You don't want to miss that. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with GameTime. Download the GameTime app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen today and every day. Shout out for being our everydayers. Let's finish this out. Pick 21, the Miami Dolphins select Jarrett Verse, edge rusher out of Florida State. At pick 22, the Philadelphia Eagles select Cooper DeJean, cornerback out of Iowa. At pick 23, the Minnesota Vikings select Bo Nix, quarterback out of Oregon. At pick 24, the Dallas Cowboys select Xavier Worthy, wide receiver out of Texas. At pick 25, the Green Bay Packers select Amarius Mims, offensive tackle out of Georgia. At pick 26, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers select Graham Barton, offensive lineman out of Duke. At pick 27, the Arizona Cardinals select defensive lineman Darius Robinson out of Missouri. At pick 28, the Buffalo Bills select Adonai Mitchell, wide receiver out of Texas. At pick 29, the Detroit Lions select Zach Frazier, interior offensive lineman from West Virginia. At pick 30, the Baltimore Ravens select Kool-Aid McKinstry, cornerback out of Alabama. At pick 31, the San Francisco 49ers select Ladd McConkey, wide receiver out of Georgia. And at pick 32, the Kansas City Chiefs select Jalen Polk, wide receiver out of Washington. Keith, I want to start right here, 32. I like Jalen Polk. I think this is a massive reach, though. I think this is a little bit of a reach when you think about Keon Coleman still be on the board, Xavier Legette still be on the board. I think Jalen McMillan might be better than Jalen Polk as a receiver. This is a little too. I like Jalen Polk a lot. I gave him a second-round grade, but this is a little too high for me.
Yeah, I came in with a third-round grade for Jalen Polk. I think I gave him a high third, so we're probably close in that realm, right? I think with obviously Rashee Rice's situation, and that still has to flush itself out, right, and figure itself out. But I didn't, and you know what? I don't even want to go suspension, but let's say if he's not there for a period of time, then you're talking about relying on another rookie wide receiver. This is not a situation where I want to put myself in where it's like I trust and where you do trust your evaluation, but you don't want to get into the area of like the New England Patriots, right? Where you're taking swings on guys and you like, you know what? Forget what everybody else think. I know it's going to work, right? You don't want to get into that energy. And like I said, I think Jalen Polk you draft on the back end of the second round, I'm fine with it, right? But the back end of the first round, there are too many guys with upside, like you talk about Xavier Legette or even Xavier Worthy. I don't think Xavier Worthy came off the board, right?
No, he went to Dallas at 24.
He went to Dallas. Okay, yeah, I'm tripping. So yeah, I would take Keon Coleman or Xavier Legette here. Or I mean, potentially just trade back, right? Trade back a couple. And if you get an extra second rounder by trading back from one of these teams that may want to grab a quarterback or something like that at pick 32, trade back.
They also
I don't know if
need
I would.
offensive tackle help too. I didn't see Kingsley's name. Kingsley Suamati. I didn't see him fall down the board. Well, so if he's there, why not take him over?
Did Amarius Mims come off the board?
Yeah, he went to Green Bay.
He went to Green Bay. Okay, yes. I was trying to think of more offensive tackles, but yeah, definitely I would probably trade back. So that one was kind of that was an alarming pick for me. Where I'm like, I like the play. It's just one of those situations I don't know if I like him that high. Zach Frazier to the Detroit Lions. DP, how you felt about that one?
I think it's a good fit. I've heard a lot of buzz that Zach is more viewed in the NFL as a late first. I think for me, I think I came away with like a second round pick on him, but I do like him. He plays with good physicality. He's nasty. A guy that I think can run block. I don't know if he can play guard. Like what I loved about JPJ is that I seen him play guard, and I feel like he could play guard and center at a very high level. I don't know about what that with Zach. I think Zach might be just a center only for me. So the positional versatility may not be there, in my opinion. But I like the player. I think also he fits Dan Campbell. Like, you know what I mean?
I think he fits this scheme too. I don't think Zach would necessarily fit every single scheme, right? But I think he fits this situation and what they want to do as far as running the football, offensive lineman moving forward, that type of thing. So I think for that situation, it's going to be a good pairing for that situation.
Yeah. No, 100%, Keith. And just kind of going back up, looking at something like this pick here. I know our boy Ray Garvin at Destination Devi would love it and hate it at the exact same time because he's like, man, we need offensive line help. What are we doing? You know what I mean? Amarius Mims went at the very next pick, right? Where did Graham Barton fall? Like, you know what I'm saying? Graham
26, I think. 26. Yeah, 26.
Kingsley Su'Matoa. I love Xavier Worthy. Don't get me wrong. I love Xavier Worthy, but man, when you have the needs that they have in Dallas, this is not a luxury situation, Keith. Not for me. And then 23. I know our guy, host of Locked On Vikings over with, Luke Braun. If, seeing pick 23 and seeing Bo Nix, and to quote him from our Locked On mock draft special, he said, you will have to cope with the idea of Bo Nix if you don't trade up. And the Vikings did not trade up, and they will absolutely have to do what he just said. But I do think that Bo Nix will be falling into an outstanding situation. And at the end of the day, no matter how we feel about him as a prospect, situations matter, Keith. Would Brock Purdy be the same guy if he was with the Houston Texans, like the team with Davis Mills, or if he was in Carolina? No, he would not be the same guy. You know what I'm saying? So Bo Nix could actually have a high ceiling in this offense with these weapons. If he fell to Minnesota, if they didn't trade up, I would actually feel much better about Bo Nix going forward.
Yeah, what I was gonna say, Michael Penix didn't get drafted, huh?
No.
And I guess that's just my QB rankings and how I view it. I probably would have went Minnesota if I was Minnesota Vikings at 23. How this thing plays out, I would go Michael Penix here, and I think that's a better haul. I think the more that they think about it, in the Minnesota Vikings trading 2 first rounders to move up, and then you don't even really get the selection that you want, right? Because you don't have access to Caleb Williams, right? You don't have access. You're probably not trading pick 2 because the Commanders are, or maybe they aren't. Maybe what if that's the shocker, right? And that's why the Commanders brought in Michael Penix also. Like, you know what? Y'all give us 11 and 23, and we'll trade back, and y'all can pick whoever you want. And then the Commanders might feel comfortable, right? It will get interesting, DP. I think with all these quarterbacks in this conversation should be, pretty fun. But I think that's an interesting selection. We always talk about the Minnesota Vikings have the best situation. So if Bo Nix is going to be successful, it's going to be a situation like that. Can you scroll up real quick to, was it 22, 21? The Cooper DeJean to the Philadelphia Eagles. I thought that was an interesting selection because I thought they would have went with a guy that they felt more comfortable that he can definitely play man defense.
Yeah, I think with Vic Fangio coming in, I think he plays, if I remember correctly, don't quote me, I think he plays a lot more zone, if I remember correctly. So I think it will actually be a really good fit for him. With
How do you feel about that with Darius Slay on the other side? And I think that's what, you're getting the mix and matching coverages and doing different things.
It'll probably be a lot of cover 4. I wouldn't be surprised with Slay. With Slay, Cooper, Keely Ringo, like Elias Ricks, it'd probably be more cover 4 than heavy cover 3. But I have to research, see what he ran last year. I think he was in Miami last year, if I remember correctly, with the Dolphins. But I think he's a heavy zone guy. I think if that holds true, when I check the numbers, after this, then it will be a solid fit. But yeah, the Darius Slay, I think he is scheme versatile. He can play zone and man, but he's always been a much better man corner because that's like to where he's thrived at.
That's his strength. Yeah. Well, DP, that wraps up a mock draft Monday, a draft week mock draft Monday. When we are so excited, we have our own mock drafts that we're going to drop. We're going to talk about so much content. We are unraveling everything, the position rankings, everything. We're unloading. We're giving you all we have, man, in this draft week to get you prepared for the draft, man. We're going to have some fun things heading for the rest of this draft week. So make sure to tell a friend that this is the best NFL draft content there is, getting you ready, getting you draft prepped for your team to make those selections on you guys' road to the Super Bowl. But listen, man, I am Keith Sanchez. You can find me on X at The Talent Code. That right there, that is my co-host, man, Mr. Damian Parson. You can find him on X at DP_NFL. And like we always like to say, man, y'all can talk to us because we like to talk back.
Go subscribe and follow for free on YouTube, wherever you listen to the podcast. Get the latest episode as soon as it is available. Thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen today and every day. Shout out for being our everydayers. Come and join the conversation again tomorrow on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.